grew up as a Quaker boy, inculcated with those Quaker ideals of freedom and equality. That led him, in his early life, be a very strong abolitionist, to work hard most of his life against slavery. And that was what he did, and with great vim, because he didn't go into his poetry really until after the Civil War. But his work in that regard made him very famous among abolitionists in the fight against slavery. And it led to formation of the Republican Party, in which he had a strong part, because he also got into politics to do it. And he was...
I don't think anybody actually thought of him as a politician.
No, but he was. He was a state assemblyman, and he was very active in politics, especially to get rid of slavery. And it resulted in his being involved in the formation of the Republican Party in the 1860s.
Wow.
1850s, really.
He actually had a part of that.
Oh, he was a very strong part of it. And he was part of the group that got Fremont to run in 1856 and got Lincoln to run in 1860 and be elected and lead us through the Civil War. That was the symbol of the slavery that moved Whittier as a Quaker to become one of the most ardent fighting foes of slavery in the country. Now, he was a Quaker. Whittier was a Quaker. It was a Quaker family. And they didn't believe in violence, but it was a crusade. Well, actually, the Quakers in England started their crusade against slavery in the early 1800s and eliminated slavery in England in 1833, because we didn't get to it until the Civil War in the 1860s. But there were Whittier, William Lloyd Garrison, and several others who were all across the country. There was a rising tide of anti-slavery movement. And despite his reluctance, his opposition to violence, Whittier realized that this was the only way they were going to end. Well, what happened, of course, was the Southerners resisted all efforts to abolish slavery, and the abolitionists, including Whittier, put on a strong campaign. These posters went up, and the campaign was on all across the country, across this part of the country. And then we got to the Civil War, which actually brought on one of my favorite lines. Eleanor knows this one. Barbara Fritchie is still a popular children's book. I got this book and another one just a couple of years ago. One was in a bookshop on Cape Cod. But there's a whole story on this one. As the Southern troops were marching through Frederick, Maryland, Barbara Fritchie, purportedly an elderly woman, put the American flag out her window, and actually it looked as though the Southern soldiers were going to shoot her and the flag and everything else. Everybody remembers her line, don't we? Shoot if you must, this old gray head, but spare your country's flag, she said. And that was Stonewall Jackson. He looked like a fierce commander. But when he saw what was happening, he took part and said, I love this line. Who harms a hair of yon gray head, dies like a dog, march on, he said. Great line, great line. But I tell you, there's a little thing behind that too. During World War II, the Roosevelts started what they call Camp David now. It was Shangri-La at the time. It was kind of a secret place where they went to get away from Washington once in a while. And while Winston Churchill was visiting at the White House as part of the war meeting, they had to drive to Camp David because they had no helicopters. They hadn't even come along then. And as they drove through Frederick, Maryland, the Roosevelts mentioned to Churchill, this is the scene of a famous poem. Churchill's mother was American. And she told him about it, and what he did and amazed the Roosevelts was he recited the whole poem while they were driving through on the way to him.